G&T show is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. Live long and prosper, bitches.
Warning: this show contains spoilers, bad language, and Nick.
You have been warned.
Welcome to the Book of the Celestial Temple Book Club. Here are your hosts, Terry Lynn, Nick, Mike, and Steve.
I think we could shop for books together and then talk about A Time to Be Born all in the middle of it.
There you go. So, Terry, did you read this Legends of King Arthur and His Knights by Sir James Knowles?
No, I did not, but it's free, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I could start off with an announcement while you guys continue shopping. Don't stop shopping because
Is it
I'm
a different
having a good
kind?
time.
You know what? G&T does nothing like anybody else. We're
No, we
shopping while we discuss books.
Right. We've decided that we're going to lighten things up, and it's just the four of us. Say hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Midnight Shadow. And Sori is here.
Kapla.
Yay. And Nick and I, of course, are...
Go fuck yourselves.
Nick is shopping. Everybody's shopping for books, and I'm kind of surfing the net, and we're going to kind of push in. Because, to be honest with you, A Time to Be Born isn't that long of a book. So we're going to need filler. And I'll start off with the big news. And the big news is fantastic news for a very good friend of the G&T show, author Mark Cushman.
A beautiful man as well.
Oh, totally. Isn't he handsome? He's
handsome.
handsome.
Janice said to say hi to him.
He's a handsome man. I'm just saying.
He's a manly man.
And he's tall.
Oh, Tom Sawyer is free.
Is it really?
Yeah.
And most classic books are free on Google Books.
Anna Karenina.
Yeah.
I'm going to the UK store because the American store that for free shows I've
I'm
got
sure
to pay
it sucks
about
for
$5 to $10.
Oh, the Time Machine. There you go. Time Machine is free.
And talking about Mark Cushman, the tall, gorgeous son of a bitch he is, has been chosen to receive the Special Recognition Saturn Award from the Academy of
Should we be saving
Science.
this for Sunday?
Well, we can, but this will go out. No, this is news. This is news. All right. The Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, in other words, the people who brought us the Saturn Awards, are recognizing Mark's work for his books. These are the Voyages, seasons 1, 2, which are out now, and season 3, which is coming up. They press release, and it's up on their website. We'll make sure the link is on the book club page. And it says the books detail the making of the original Star Trek series and cover the making and development of each episode. The project took 6 years of research to complete. The first book was printed at 600 pages, and the second was published at 688 pages. The third book will be published later this year. This is one of the great achievements in 2013-2014 in literature. So congratulations.
Yes,
Mark
congratulations.
Cushman.
That's awesome.
That's really fantastic news, and what a great thing to celebrate when we're in Vegas.
It's well deserved.
Absolutely. That's so cool. I'm so happy for him. Things are coming together for the Las Vegas thing. So, okay, while we're shopping for books, because we can, and we're finding a whole bunch of really cool free ones. Did you also see the news that David Mack put on Facebook today?
About his new book?
I
was thinking of Dayton.
Well,
Dayton has news as well. Dave Mack, his original novel has interest.
Right, but who was it that tweeted about bringing the band back together?
That was Dave Mack in Dayton's post about his next book project.
Wait a minute. What
Yeah.
band?
Huh?
Don't know, but Dave Mack tweeted that on. Now we're talking Facebook gossip. Dave Mack had tweeted that on Dayton's thread when Dayton had made the announcement that he is moving forward, or his book project has been.
It's
moving
very,
forward.
very weird. Yeah, it's very, very weird because Keith R.A. DeCandido tweeted that he is on he's working on a new contract and it's not Trek related. Then Dayton posted something about getting a new gig and David Allen Mack tweeted something, right?
The dreamy David Allen Mack.
The dreamy, I have to say that right. The dreamy David Allen Mack.
You just made Dayton very, very, very
I don't think so.
jealous. Jealous, that's it.
David Mack's was for an original thing that he's come up with, wasn't it? I do believe so.
Well, let me see. It says, I'm you a steady diet announcing the tour. Help me save my logos. Hammering out. Okay. David Allen Mack tweeted 6 hours ago, hammering out a contract and a story for a new tie-in writing gig. Can't say what it is, but I can say this. And then he posted a picture of the Blues Brothers with the quote, "We're putting the band back together."
That's a new one then. I missed that one. Interesting.
I retweeted it. So let me see if I can pick that. Oh, good, I can. I'll put it in the chat room for you guys.
Is it too much to hope that Marco's going back to...
I don't know what this means. I really don't know what and it's a tweet, so it's not like people really commented on it. And then he says, my week is off to a good start. My agent extraordinaire, Lucianne Diver, likes my sample chapters for my new original novel, so we're one step closer to taking that to market. Today, she's locking down the contract details for a new tie-in writing gig that I'm very much looking forward to and for which the editor and I have already started talking about story ideas. The new gig also comes with some very nice intangible benefits, but I said too much already. And then Dayton Ward, he posts, see me smiling? That's me smiling, and the smile of a writer who just landed a new gig, a fun gig, the kind of gig that's going to rock balls, big rocking balls.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, that's the one I saw. And I think in that particular thread is when David Allen Mack also posted the Blues Brothers image into.
He did. Oh, yeah, we're putting the band back together.
So, interesting.
What's going on? I want to know what's going on. What's the tie-in gig that they...
I mean, they're already doing Seekers, and that's no secret.
Right. So what would they be doing? What could they be doing?
I don't know.
You don't think...
I mean...
You don't... It couldn't be. Dare we dream? Could it be that they... I got nothing.
I wonder. Hey, Midnight, you got any ideas on what this could be about?
He can barely read.
No.
He spells with O's and U's where they shouldn't be.
No. I love that. That was cute, Steve. No.
Ooh, the picture of Dorian Gray is no cost.
Yeah, I saw that.
Huh.
Keep flicking through all the ones under free, and got some really strange results.
Under free Kindle books?
Lots of books I'm sure you'd love, but sort of like Forbidden Love and Temptation Record, Love in Handcuffs.
I don't need to read about it when I live it.
I don't know. I don't know what it could be. We're putting the band back together. Oh, I gotta look up. Did Kevin say anything? No, because all he's all excited about is the Big Trouble in Little China comic book.
I'm wondering if they might be
him.
doing another Star Trek series that continues on from the fall.
Kevin's awesome.
Kevin is awesome.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Una. How about Una? Maybe the same authors who did The Fall, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm looking.
Because that went very successfully, with most of them actually appearing in the New York bestsellers list.
Right. I'm not sure.
She really hasn't said anything lately.
That's why I keep somehow going to Vanguard.
I'm wondering. What did they do, though?
Checking out James Swallow.
No, who's not checking out James Swallow?
Now we're two people are shopping for books, and two people are...
How could this not be so? I'm not friends with James Swallow on Facebook?
You suck.
I'm remedying this immediately. No, just
You
wait.
suck.
Apparently, I do. Well, now I'm waiting for him to accept. Say
You
yes.
weren't friends with his lordship, great and loyal, regal master of dukedom, James Swallow?
Apparently not. It was an oversight. It's been corrected.
I thought you were. I wonder if it's one of those things where Facebook's known to do that.
It could be.
Do you have the right one? How do I know if I am?
Oh, that's true. It could be a different James Swallow I just friended.
How do I know?
Well, only one comes up in my list.
Well, if it's someone that's got some mutual friends to you, it usually does say.
Why is he not coming up on mine now?
I don't think he's on Facebook. Is he?
Did you upset him?
He's
don't
on Twitter.
Yeah, he's on Twitter.
Yeah, he's on Twitter.
Hold on.
Oh, he has a page.
He's
an
the
about
community page.
Yeah,
that's
he does not
different.
have. He doesn't have a Facebook, so to speak.
And people,
Okay,
you
so
really are
James
getting
tweeted-
a glimpse into what our production meetings are like now.
Okay, so 7 hours ago, James Swallow tweets, "Here's what I've been working today," and it's the YouTube video of Star Trek Titan.
So he's working on
Judith.
something Titan related.
He's working on something Titan related, which makes me very, very tingly.
That's good. That's a good thing. Yes.
Makes me very tingly.
It's the beard.
And the beard. And James Swallow's beard, unless he shaved it.
How
I don't
dare
know.
he.
I'm just, I don't know. Who knows what they mean? Who knows what they're working on?
Utopia by Sir St. Thomas More?
That's like old, isn't it?
Yeah. Norwegian Life. Yeah, somehow don't think I'm downloading that. Don't know why. English Fairy Tales. Oh my god. Tilly, a Mennonite Maid, a story of the Pennsylvania Dutch. Normally $15, available for free. I'm almost tempted to get it.
So while my co-host entertains me by shopping on Kindle,
The History of the Peloponnesian Wars by Thucydides.
Steve, let's talk a little bit about A Time to Be Born.
Very gruesome. There's slime like the movie Alien everywhere.
Well, only at the end of the book.
Good point.
So how long did it take you to read it, my dear?
2.5 weeks.
Wow. Really?
That was a long time.
Yeah, but you remember all the things that I actually do as well.
Yeah, he makes us look lazy.
Well, we are.
Well, I was trying to. You know what I meant by that. Well, no, there's no getting out of it. We're lazy.
What, do you take like notes and shit?
Sometimes. Actually, this one I didn't make that many.
You are married, right?
I am.
It's baby too.
Actually, the first note I made was to do with how many times Picard actually says, "Make it so."
Oh, I'll
Just
tell
like,
you.
it's just like, I'm sure he can say something else.
There's for those who do not know, A Time to Be Born is the first book in the series, what we call the Time 2 series, which spans the period of time between the movies Star Trek Insurrection and Nemesis. So, and it's like a 4-year period of time. 4-year period. It's 4 years.
4 years because they go to Tazwa, which is the most memorable part of the.
Right, but that's like in book 7. You know.
Yeah, it's
this
towards
first
the end.
one is the first of what I call the Crusher books, right? It's when
the first 2 are Wesley.
right, and that's this one. So A Time to Be Born is
right after Nemesis.
Right after Nemesis, and it brings Wesley back and deals with quite a bit about
his being a traveler. He's watching it because he can't get involved.
Is it not right after Insurrection, but before Nemesis?
Oh, it's right after Insurrection. Sorry, not after Nemesis. Right.
Wait a minute, is it? Because
it's right
I
after No, it's right after Insurrection.
Because
this is how we get Troy into getting married to Riker.
I totally forgot about that because I remember.
I thought the entire series did all the filler between what had happened in Insurrection and between what had happened in Nemesis.
No, it's after Nemesis.
Correct. No,
because it takes place
before, because Data's in it.
Where the scimitar blew up.
No,
doesn't it?
Data's in most of book 1, so you wouldn't have that.
Right.
Which is the books I'm remembering then, where they're keeping pirates away from looting the dead ships?
Yeah, that's the Time to Be Born. That's this one.
Yeah.
And with Data's in it, so it can't be after Nemesis.
Data is even floating in space at one point.
Right.
Which I guess could be why you're confused.
I also read them back in 2005.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this was the first Star Trek book I read when I got back into the fandom was Q&A by Keith R.A. DeCandido. And then I said, oh my God, I need to read more books. And so what did I do? I went out and bought the Time to Be Born series. And like Steve, it took me a couple of weeks to get through the first book. I found it very easy to put down.
Mm-hmm.
Did
Not
you,
gonna disagree
Steve?
with you.
Oh no, I kept wanting to read, but it's just
Did
I
you?
could only read so much in my lunch hour, and sort of between all the other things that I'm doing, I didn't get much chance to read in the evenings. So
I read maybe a chapter at a time, and I had to force myself to pick it up because I wasn't necessarily buying how Vornholt wrote some of the characters. I I did not like the way he wrote Troy. I think he relied too much on the way Troy was perceived in the first few seasons of TNG, as opposed to how we've seen her later in later episodes or in later seasons or even in the movies.
yeah,
Um,
it was the same with Picard, especially to begin
ugh,
with. There's just so much doubt. It's just like it didn't quite seem true to him.
right.
And the thing is I was interested in how it sort of wanted to progress and how the story was going. Because I think I was more intrigued by the mystery of what was going on at the is it Rashanar, isn't it?
Yes.
So I was more interested about what was actually going on there, I suppose, than the interaction between sort of like the characters in this book.
Right.
But it's a bit like sort of the shuttle being stolen and sort of him Picard giving himself such a sort of bad time about it.
Well, I remember that again. It's been several years since I've read it, and now I'm flipping through it again and kind of bringing myself back in and thinking, "Oh yeah, I remember that.
But
Oh
there's
yeah, I
also
remember
one
that."
point
And this was
where,
a big thing where Picard gets himself into a big pickle,
yeah,
Yeah, he does.
and it kind of draws Wesley out and kind of not. I mean, he's still technically in training as a traveler, right?
yeah, he's basically doing his final test in a way, isn't he?
Yeah,
He's
but we don't know
graduating.
that as a reader yet. We see him kind of breaking the rules by at the end of the book. Like, oh, he's made a decision, not unlike a Wesley decision too. I mean, you think about it,
Well,
how
the thing is,
he ended
technically,
off.
he doesn't actually break the rule because part of the Kindle book that I downloaded gave the first sort of chapter of the second book. So it's not until then that
Ah,
he
that's
actually breaks
right.
the rule. The first one, he sort of he's watching what's going on, so he's doing what he's basically been training to do.
Right.
So he doesn't affect anything, which as a traveller they're supposed to just watch. There's one thing I
Right.
did like about the book is sort of he went into sort of more information about the travellers
I agree.
and their sort of community and sort of the fact that although the travellers tend to be made up of one race as a sort of a big part of it, there is a small part of the travellers that, like Wesley, are
Right.
from different species.
Right. That
And
that just happened to show those kinds of gifts.
yeah, and I thought it was good the fact that in order to do certain things or to travel to certain places and times, it needed the community to come together, which sort of went back to the TNG episode where the traveller, after sort of making the Enterprise go so fast and so far, was completely drained.
Right.
So having the community sort of like have to come together to do something big sort of made sense and sort of really sort of came off that original episode where we got introduced to the travelers.
Right. And I do like the fact that we do get to see the travelers more fleshed out than we did before. And I really like the fact, although, that Wesley is still one of them.
But it's also the conflict that we go through or see in him for still being human.
Right.
And because, of course, part of his final part of his training, the last bit which he sort of goes through, is he's basically given this vision, isn't he? And
Yes.
basically, what happens at the end of this vision is what is it called? Is it Pool of Prophecy, isn't it? That he sort of gets taken to, and he sees the Enterprise E basically being blown up. I think it was an auto-destruct, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he decides, and he makes that decision on whether or not he needs to interfere.
Yeah, but he doesn't interfere to begin with. Basically, this
No.
entire book, he's just observing.
Right. Which actually gives the writer a great way to be able to cover scenes and points of view without having to worry about changing points of view. It's really all Wesley's point of view, although you don't really realize that as a reader. You just feel like you're the camera in the room, and then you realize you're kind of seeing it all from his perspective, which is actually pretty cool.
I was going to say, one thing that did sort of get me sort of reading through it is the amount of times that it's referenced that people look at Wesley and he's just forgotten. Just like, how many times do you need to write the fact that that's what's happening?
Yeah, that can, yeah. Again, it's a writing habit.
And as you were saying before, sort of with sort of the way characters were written, there's like one part where sort of with Data, he writes, he proceeded to run diagnostics on his positronic brain and neural network. The tests were interrupted by the chirp of his comm badge. It's just like, this is Data. He can do like 50,000 things at once. Why was he interrupted by a chirp on his comm badge? He's an android. And it's just like,
You know
I
what's
tried to
funny?
do it.
I don't think I would have picked up on that, but I love it.
No,
I
that's
love
a good
the fact
catch.
that you did.
You know, I tried to run a self-diagnostic and I got arrested, so.
and it's just like, you're writing
Oh,
about
I'm
an
sorry, somebody
android,
can file
and,
charges against me now? Sorry.
Okay.
and it's just like, how wrong can you get a character that you're writing about?
It's true. It's true. You know, we talking about that, Mike, you might want to pipe in, you know, now that we've been, you know, we write on our own and we do fanfic, that I have learned, you know, happens to be one of my problems is when you start to write a piece, your brain is kind of in the now or in the period of time in which you are writing.
Yes, in the moment.
You are in the moment of your characters, and so you may write a scene one day and then 2 or 3 weeks later write another scene, so you don't realize that you're repeating something, not unlike what you were saying, Steve, about, you know, how many times do we have to hear about Wesley's feeling, you know, about that particular emotion. It's kind of being beaten into your skull. Well, I had that horrible habit when I was writing about my character Cassidy and the color of her eyes. And I didn't realize it until somebody read all of the pieces kind of put together. And I had a good editor who came in and said, you know what, dude, we all know she's got blue eyes, okay? I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're writing, you're not paying attention. You know what is important about the character, about the scene, or about what is supposed to be happening, and you know that what you want to say, and sometimes it just gets easy, or you just kind of get stuck where you're not sure if you mentioned it already, or if you're, or so you mention it again, and
Yeah.
then it just gets to the point where it seems like you're beating them over the head with it, and that's what you want to try to avoid. But it's one of those things where you're not sure if you mentioned it already, or if it's something that you still on your to-do list, so to speak. But I also noticed, in a lot of books, the authors, in order to refresh the reader's memory, they will repeat some things several
Right.
times.
Right.
I just finished reading the Cold Equations trilogy, and there were certain elements that I noticed that Dave Mack was repeating almost every other chapter, it seemed like. So it happens to everybody.
He's going to kill us all now.
Okay, so let me ask you this. If it's an editor's job to go through and read it all and to feed back on things like that, when these things happen, is it the editor's fault or
I
the
think it's a
writer's
combination.
fault?
Personally, I think that, and if it's
depends.
noticed, go ahead,
It
Nick.
depends, because like someone like Neil Gaiman will do it, but it's also a mood thing.
Hmm.
Because Because sometimes it's like this character in Neverwhere that I'm reading, her eyes are like these really weird colors. So the other character will notice like the changes in her eyes and stuff.
Yeah, but noticing those differences is news to the reader about what mood that character might be in, right? It's
Yeah.
foreshadowing of some
But
kind.
you can also, like with Cassidy,
Yeah.
her blue eyes get darker if she's upset or lighter if she's sad.
Yeah.
So you can use that for now. If you're just saying she stared at me with her blue eyes, well, go fuck yourself. We know that she's got blue eyes. But if you say, her eyes normally the color blue of the moon on a clear, on a summer night had taken on a hard gemstone quality. Now you're seeing that, she's pissed off about something or not, or, focused on something. I think it depends on how it's used.
Right. I'd agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that it's between it's a partnership between a writer and the editor into communicating. Is the repetitive motion, so to speak, a deterrent to the reader? Because it shouldn't be noticeable to a reader that some kind of a phraseology is being used over and over and over again, unless it has a reason to be, like Nick was saying, if it's denoting a specific mood, or if there's some kind of a description which foreshadows action that occurs later on down the line. It should be a partnership, and an author, in my opinion. Now, I missed it entirely, and the reason why I missed it was because I, as a writer, didn't do what I needed to do, and that was give it a good read through first. I did not read it in order, in one sit down. I didn't read it as if I was a reader. I read it as if I was a writer, and I read it as, okay, this chapter's done. I go over here, do something else. This chapter's this one. I read it out of sync, so I never really realized the connectivity between the chapters and how that phrase really was overused. An editor should also be able to be that person's backup. That's what an editor, in my opinion, is for. An editor, a really good editor, not only can make changes that heighten the story and the plot, but also can make significant corrections so those aren't quite as noticeable to the reader as what you found.
I just wanted to go ahead. No, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, when it comes to Star Trek books, I think the one thing many of us will agree on is that over the course of the past 15 years, not even that, probably the past 10 years, the quality of the writers and the quality of the editing has improved significantly. And
yes.
A Time to Be Born and the books done in around the same era and even beforehand, I think are a good example of, they weren't poor books
Of the
by any
evolution.
stretch of the imagination, but they're just not even close to how good they are now.
Yeah.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't this the start of the interconnectedness?
I want to say
This is right
it was
before, I
right
think.
beforehand.
Because I think Destiny is what actually kicked off the interconnectedness of the different series.
Yeah, because Destiny ties in lots of different books, doesn't it?
I agree. And I remember them making the big announcement about being interconnected at Comic-Con. Oh, wow. Was that 2009? I think it was. And it was a big to-do. And I remember, actually, I was quite upset about it. I was pissed.
Why?
Because I really thought they were shooting themselves in the foot. I thought that I really liked the fact that I didn't necessarily feel like I had to read a TNG book to read a DS9, or that, that they would still be kind of separate. And I thought that it would allow it would allow writers more freedom.
Going from a standalone to a running series, so to speak.
Because the way I see it is they've moved from like TOS in the 60s, which the most of it is very episodic, to what you get now with sort of a lot of sort of things like, say, Battlestar Galactica, where you've got these huge arcs lasting sort of an entire year or two. That's the way I look at the way sort of some of these books are coming across and the way they sort of interact with each other, especially if you look at the way the Fall goes between things that have happened in all these different books in the past.
Yeah, I have to say I was wrong. I was wrong completely. I did not comprehend how fun the universe got after that. I will totally admit I was a fool for thinking that it was a bad idea. Because not only was it a good idea, it was probably the best idea that Treklets had since ever.
I
It shows me how beautifully connected the Prime universe is. Nick?
we've discussed many times, and we're shopping for books as we're doing this show.
Yes, we
and
are.
We're talking about ebooks and such. I had found something, and it's on the G&T Show Facebook page. So if everybody here listening can not only view it but share it, it's from the London Book Festival in 2013, and it's the keynote speech at the Digital Minds Conference, and it's Neil Gaiman discussing the publishing industry and the
Oh,
ebook.
interesting.
And it's very, very fascinating to see. He starts off talking about when he was in 1976, a young kid, and he's in a punk band because that's what you did. And to play, they had to join a union, which is kind of funny if you think about it. Terry, I'm sure you laugh like me, join a punk band to join a union, kind of, you know what I mean? Yeah.
How kind of ironic that is. Yeah.
Yeah, but to get a gig, you had to
You had to be
join
a
the union.
union, and punkers were anti-union, right? Or they were just
They
more
were
freedom.
anti-everything.
Anti-everything, right? Anti-establishment, and unions were their own establishment. There you go.
But the sticker that they got to put on their equipment was a little yellow sticker, basically decrying that taping was killing music. So people taping off the radio with their cassette players was killing
Which
the
I
music
used
industry.
to do like crazy.
Right. But if you think about it, in 1976, very real, because let's say Terry and I were dating. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say Janice and I are dating, and I make her mixtapes from all my albums,
Right.
little Led Zeppelin here, a little The Who there, some Beatles, throwing some Patti Smith, whatever, and you make a mixtape. That was a big deal back when we were young, right, Terry? Somebody
Yeah.
gave you a mixtape, they put some time into it.
You had mixtapes for very specific reasons. You had your road trip mixtape, you had your crosstown mixtape, you had just like we have our playlist now.
Mm-hmm.
On iTunes or whatever.
But it took considerable time to put a mixtape together.
It was a bitch. Yeah.
And if
My
you
wife
put
still
one
makes
together
them.
for a girl...
Oh, does she really?
Yeah, her car still has a cassette player, so
No
she still makes
shit.
them.
Oh my god, how analog. That's awesome.
But if you made a mixtape for a girl, you were in love.
Yeah,
I used to love making Sharon mixtape.
Right? Even with CDs. When CDs first came out and you were making them off the CDs, it was still, oh, look at this. Oh, I got some B.B. King here. That's a great song. Oh, let me a little Eric Clapton here. Oh, look at this by Pink Floyd. She'll never expect that. But how they said it was going to kill the music industry. Obviously, the music industry is not dead. Fast forward to 2013, at the time that he gave this address, ebooks are killing the publishing industry. And he talks for about a half an hour about ebooks, digitalization, the standard book industry, the standard publishing industry, holding a book in your hand, the different ways of marketing in the digital age. And he tells a story about doing doodles on a napkin while they were eating dinner, and they're leaving, and his unbelievably gorgeous wife says, who's one freaking awesome artist. If you don't follow Amanda Palmer, oh my god, she's awesome. What are you going to do with that? He's like, I'm going to throw it away. So she takes it and they hide it under a rock outside the restaurant, and then they tweet, we just left a restaurant in New York City and there's this, if you find it. By the time they walked like the 10 minutes back to their hotel, already found.
Right.
So the power of something like that, you know, and then another artist did it and somebody threw it away. But it's an amazing talk, and if you guys could watch it and listen to it for us to discuss on Sunday's show, because it talks so much better than we ever can, because it's Neil Gaiman, about the things we've been talking about. And like, there were things he said that I was like, I never even thought of that.
Wow.
And you also remember Neil Gaiman talked about the whole pirating thing.
Oh yeah. He has a very different point of view about pirating than most other people do.
David George
think,
talked about that with us.
Right. Oh, very true. And it's an unusual, most people do not agree with him, and that's okay.
There's good but I
they
totally
have good
understand
reasons
his
not
point.
to. Yeah.
Terry loans me a book and says, hey, let's say Terry says, hey, have you ever read Neil Gaiman? And I say no. And she hands me Good Omens, which is one of his not as thick books. Right. And I love it, and I give it back to her.
I would actually probably give you the Graveyard book, but there you go.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Have I just pirated that? Has that been pirated?
Because according to digital publishing, yes. According to standards, no. Because I bought the book, I bought the right to lend it to you. And
but
that's
how is
the
that
weird
different with
thing.
digital? If
and
Steve wanted to read book 2 of A Time To, and I've got
it
it on
has absolutely
digital,
nothing to do with it. It's just because it's digital, it's easier for businesses to track sales now, right? And that's what this is. It's control. It's control over the property. And
But aren't a lot of publishers losing that control? Because, like, was it Kelly Medding, she actually self-published some of her recent books, didn't she?
Yep. Yeah, she did.
Yes. And I think that a lot of, well, it also goes hand in hand with everything we've been talking about for the past few years now about television as well. Studios are losing control. Why? Because they no longer they used to have
A monopoly.
that's it. They had total control over everything. And the moment that the internet came out and self-publishing became aware, and then Hollywood pushed, and I really do think this has a lot to do with it, Hollywood pushed for non-union type contracts with reality television. And so all of the union people were now scrambling to find work. And if you couldn't find work in a union job, you went out and did your own, right? You wrote your own stuff. You published your own stuff. You created your own films. The independent film market is just now exploding, and they're doing it and saying, we don't need you, studios. You shunned us. We're making do without you. And that has bloomed into Netflix. What is Netflix but an iTunes for self-publishers, not unlike what iTunes was for self-made music.
And
Bands could publish their shit on iTunes and sell it for $1 a single, the same as anybody who was funneled through a studio system.
And isn't that sort of happening now with, like, WGN has Salem, and they're going to have another show called I think it's Manhattan, about the Manhattan Project, where WGN is a sole station.
Right.
That's it. It's like TBS, which has its own production.
And it's going to be that way, I think, in publishing as well. Publishing has an issue with it that no other entertainment does, and that is it still has a large group of people who want the physical book, right?
Which there's always going to be a place for.
There's still a big group of people out there that want to hold the book in their hand.
Yes, but doesn't that allow for print on demand to rise up in place of publishers?
Absolutely. I'll tell you. That comes with its own legal issues. Again, how do you control your product?
I've only got 5 books as hard copies, which is the Destiny trilogy, which were the first books that I started reading, and that was only because I didn't know I could get the Kindle app for computer and mobile.
Right.
And the only other ones that I've got is the Star Trek Visual Encyclopedia and Stellar Cartography, which are actually books that I got for my son for Christmas and birthday.
Nice.
Apart from that, it's digital.
Kindle. Yeah. It's all digital. And here's the thing. If you had the opportunity to take that digital version of your book, go to the local UPS store or, the service area, FedEx or whatever, and plug your Kindle into a machine that would print a bound version of it.
I'm not sure they do it in the UK. Plus, with me, I prefer it digital, to be honest, because everything I do is computers. So literally everything I do, I'm on a laptop or desktop or mobile phone sort of 22 hours of the day. So having it as a hard copy is just too big and bulky and just wouldn't suit me. With the digital copies, it means if I'm just waiting for anything, even if it's just for 2 minutes, I can read like a few paragraphs, highlight the word that I got up to, and then just turn the device off and then continue it.
I think it's more kind of like the way that I have books. Everything that I have is digital. However, I have a few select pieces that are hard copy, and those are things that I've chosen to get in hard copy and for, to be autographed or whatever the case may be. So I think that's kind of, where a lot of the print is going to be coming from. Everything is going to be, more readily available in digital format. That will be the thing that most people will end up getting first. And then if they like it, they can opt for the print version.
Yep. I think that it comes with its own set of issues, but I think that it'll be an option in the future. Possibly. It depends on how publishers deal with the control over what they consider to be their stuff. And the reason is the publishers need to pay the writers, and the writers are the ones who've been contracted, and they typically get paid by how many books are sold. So the writers really want the publishers to be able to keep track of how many copies of the book are out there. So it is a very big and a very real problem. What some people would consider piracy, i.e., the people who created it and would get paid because they get paid by the number of sales, as opposed to those of us who look at it as, oh, I'm just loaning him a book.
But the
It's
thing
not
is,
loaning anymore. It's actually making a physical copy of it.
thing is,
When
if someone, even if it is pirated, in most cases, a friend gives you a pirate copy or a issue of a book or something like that. You read it, you like it, then want to get more. People tend to
Typically,
go
that's
out and
true.
buy it.
And you go out and buy it, don't you?
Yeah, it's almost like its own advert from, in a way, a second-hand copy. So I don't think piracy is always bad. Now, yes, there are always going to be these sort of groups and gangs that make money off it, and that's the only thing they're interested in. But there's that sort of piracy, and then there's piracy just to lend a friend a copy because they're not sure whether or not they'll properly like it or something.
Well, I had seen, I don't know where I saw it exactly. I think it was in in music format, where you can basically give someone a copy of a song, for instance, with like a 24-hour limit, or you can rent a movie. Actually, Amazon allows you to rent a movie for 24 hours. Well, wouldn't it make sense for digital books if it came with that sort of thing where you can go and borrow a book, say from a friend or from a library or something for a short period of time to make sure that is something that you're interested in. If it is, you can buy it. If not, you can return it or it disables itself and everything is, no harm, no foul.
Amazon already do that because you can download a book to try, and you get like the first chapter or so where you can read it to see if you like it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I actually did that with the second book of the Time 2 series, just because I wanted to see what started to happen next. Although I haven't bought it just yet because I need to move on to the next book for the book club. So I just thought, well, I'll just see what happens next. And I tried the book, so that way it's downloaded to my Kindle. So when I'm ready, I'll then buy it then.
I think that digital also works very well for publishers like Pocket who are doing Star Trek books where, I'll tell you, a Time 2 series is a great example of what happened. I got Q&A and I thought, I really wanted to read. And I noticed when I picked up A Time to Be Born, I noticed, oh, gee, this is the first book of a series because it had the number 1 on the front. And by this time, the whole series had been published. So I was looking in the bookstore and I realized they didn't have all of the books in the series. And I thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to buy the books unless I know for a fact I can get all of them. So I went home and I searched around, and I think it took me 3 different online booksellers, but I was able to order all 9 of them. It's 9, right? 9 books.
Yeah.
But it took me probably a good 2 or 3 weeks to gather all of the books together before I would start reading them, because there was no way I was going to start reading them. The advantage of digital publishing is, one, they no longer have to worry about the costs of the physical publishing, which are extraordinary.
Don't have to worry
2,
about shipping or inventory or...
Exactly. And people like me who won't buy a set of books, I don't mind reading a series of books that come out in a serial fashion as long as I'm there to begin with. But if, like the Time 2 series, if they've already been out, I'm not going to bother unless I get all 9 of them so I can sit down and kind of burn through them, which is what I did. I can tell you right now that had I had a digital reader when I was going through this, I would have just downloaded them digitally at the time instead of searching for 3 weeks for the physical copies. Because, and not the least of which is now they can still sell those books years later. They can still sell those books digitally without having to worry about the costs of the physical and shipping to a bookstore. So it's a very interesting.
It really does allow book clubs like ours, to kind of exist. It allows us to go back and see things that came out, a decade ago, and go over it and talk about those books again.
Yeah, it does. Well, I know that A Time to Be Born is a very fun, kind of interesting book for any of our listeners who are wondering, oh, well, is it something I should start reading? I would recommend it because I really like the Time 2 series. I think that it does the TNG crew justice by the time you get to the end of the series.
Yeah, Time to Be Born is not my favorite book in this series, and that's no slap at the author. Please do not think it's that.
Right.
What it is, it's a series that starts off with a lot, you may know the Enterprise crew and all that, but a lot of introductory stuff to set up what's going to happen 5 or 6 books down the road. So you have to have a lot of laying of the foundation
Right.
to get to some heart-wrenching, mind-blowing, Federation-shaking stuff later on.
Right.
But you
And
have to have this foundation.
You do have to have this foundation, and I highly recommend the entire series. And they kind of are written almost in couplets, is how I want to say it.
Yeah.
Because A Time to Be Born is like the first half of the first 2 books, and the second book, of course, is A Time to Die. And then there's A Time to Sow, backed up by A Time to Harvest, A Time to Love, A Time to Hate, A Time to Kill, A Time to Heal. And I would say, and it's who finishes it off? Keith does, doesn't he?
Keith is usually the cleaner.
Yeah. Well, he cleans it up. I'll tell you. Woo boy. I would compare the A Time 2 series to an entire season of TNG.
Exactly. It's a season-long arc is what it really becomes.
And some of the things that the characters go through emotionally, physically,
still are resonating in the novels today. Will Riker.
Very, very true. And that's what I love about the fact that if there was anything that the writers were going to pick up and carry from the connected universe, that a lot of the connected universe does pick a lot of what happens in the A Time 2 series, because what happens to Will Riker is pivotal in how he handles and handles his own,
and also what happens
and becomes a captain, really,
with the president of the Federation.
Oh yeah,
which opens the door for something
Articles
else.
of the Federation,
which introduces.
I think this is probably right when things started to get a little bit gelatinous in the universe. It's cool.
Yeah, because this all leads to Nemesis,
right?
Which then leads to Destiny,
right?
After all that, I'm now very interested to read the rest of the series.
Oh,
I highly recommend it. It gets stronger. You know how the fall started strong and got stronger and stronger?
Yeah.
Yeah. This starts. I would put the first book at a 6, but for me, this was me in 2005, not having read Star Trek, except for the Gateway series, and kind of being reintroduced to everything. And then by the end, it's a 10. And again, because it builds and builds and builds and builds, and then
what happens in the previous book affects and what happens in the next the next book, and then so on and so on.
There's personal crisis of confidence. There's professional crisis of confidence. There's not strife, but there's professional disagreements among the Enterprise crew, which I know there's some people that are like, no, this is good stuff.
It is good stuff, and it does show. I don't know. I don't really see. Oh, I have to admit, I really enjoyed the fact that you got to see what I always figured occurred behind the scenes in the television show. Does that make sense? I always kissed off their ability to get along as well. First off, Picard was making some pretty great decisions. They rarely had to be questioned. Let's face it. He rarely had to be questioned. Rarely. And if there was a few times in the show where he needed to be questioned, we kind of saw Riker give him some grief. Not a lot, but some. They never really had out and out disagreements. And I always kind of said, well, you know what? That probably all occurred.
Because you know who got away with
camera.
You know who got away with that? Guinan.
That's exactly right. Because he could take that from a personal friend as opposed to a professional, downfall or one of Picard's faults? Yeah, I think so. Although I have to say, I think that Picard got a lot of good advice from Troy once he started getting psychotherapy.
Yeah.
The Cardassian thing. Oh my God, Steve, you have to read. You have to read the rest of this series, because I won't give it away, but a lot of what happens to Riker is almost a mirror of what happens of what happens to Picard
for a much longer time.
For a much longer time, under what happens to when he's being tortured by the Cardassian Madrid.
Okay.
Interesting.
And it's very interesting, and it kind of gets reflected every so often in the Titan books. And James Swallow is an artist at being able to pick up exactly when Riker's having a Tesla moment. You just know. It's like, oh shit, he's having, he became such a great character. Huh?
Didn't Dave pick it up in Destiny as well?
Yes, he did.
During the invasion?
He definitely touched on it. And it was just a fleeting moment, which is perfect, right? About somebody who's dealing with that kind of PTSD. Oh, geez. Great stuff. I'll tell you, that's the one thing that I think a lot of readers don't give the Star Trek writers credit for is, yeah, you know what? I used to be one of those purists. Is how could you make the thing so political this, and Starfleet wouldn't do that. And I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah, they would, because you saw it in TNG, you saw it in TOS. There was always that potential for the downfall or the corruption of the political organization that was Starfleet. If anything, the drumhead is a perfect example of what the fuck can go wrong when it's not watched and monitored every single minute of the day.
Well, Terry, you and I have been through this before, but I'm just going to say any organization, including the Federation, that has bureaucrats is rife for shit.
Yeah. And
because that's what bureaucrats are.
And the books,
big steaming piles of liquid shit.
So, and I think, Steve, when you were reading the book, did you start to see some of the foundations for you started to question what the fuck is going on with the Federation?
Yeah, I definitely, because of course I've read The Fall, I've read Destiny, I've read the beginning now of most of the series out there, so I could see where certain things are sort of starting to link in, and especially when Picard sort of gets taken away to sort of be assessed by this therapist.
How scary is that just the very notion that the organization you work for is going to have your stability investigated by someone who works for them?
Yeah.
It's not.
No. I know.
It's like the worst kind of nightmare. You know, it's like Congress investigating itself.
But it is also to the degree that he was investigated.
Right.
Sort of, he was literally watched all the time. He was separated from everyone. Yes, he got to be allowed visitors. And sort of like every discussion that went on, sort of he was being questioned about whether he thought what he did was right or wrong, and just like, how is that really going to help? And it's almost, I felt sometimes, is she there to sort of do her job, which is to sort of check his performance and mental sort of state of mind, or to try and get information for the tribunal?
And I'll say this: we know that we've discussed how I feel about Beverly Crusher and such, but if I'm on the Enterprise and I'm taken off and I'm put in the situation Picard is in this book, to be honest, you know my Pulaski love, Bashir, all of that. I think Beverly is the one I would want in my corner saying, wait a minute, this is wrong. Because she's like a cat with a catnip ball. Once she locks on to something, especially if she knows she's right, if if it was Steve and she's saying, hey, he's not crazy, what are you doing? She will go to any length to right that wrong. And I think this book and the series does a really good job with Beverly in that kind of situation. Yeah. I think he wrote Beverly really well.
Yeah, there are some characters like, say, Data and Picard in many instances that he got quite wrong. But yeah, as you said, Beverly, I think he got sort of really
She's not
down.
Easy to write. I don't think.
No, I think the problem is that she ends up being almost too easy to write because she's not that deep of a character, at least from the show. She was so poorly written in the show. I know you agree with me on that. She really was.
But he made her deep.
And that's what I liked. It was like, okay, well, yeah. And I like the fact that if there's one thing we all do know about Beverly is that she is like a dog with a bone. She will not give up on something. She is that part of her is very, very McCoy.
Yeah. One of the other things with Beverly I also found was the way that she was talking to Picard. I saw this as part of the beginning of how they became married.
It is.
In later books.
I'm not going to... It's not a spoiler. This is the beginning. Stop it. Stop it.
Right.
No, you don't hate the fact they're married. You hate the fact that the progeny has 17 names.
No, I really do hate the fact that they're married.
But
I really do believe... Oh, I totally believe...
The way Dayton and Swallow and even...
I think Dayton... No, I think Beverly is the exact same doting mother that she was in the series. No doubt.
She would totally spit
on her child's cheek to wipe it clean.
She's a very strong wife. she is a good wife for Picard.
She's a good mother. She's a very strong mother. She's a good mother. And I like the way that Dayton writes Picard as a father. Absolutely.
No, I mean,
I
one reason I think
just
that
never
she's a
believed
good...
they belonged together.
One reason I think
never
she's a good
believed
wife for Picard is because of everything they've been through together on the
I
Enterprise.
think Picard is. I never bought him as.
Hey, he likes the ginger, you know?
No, no.
Don't you dare pick on the gingers, because Tara is
I'm
a
not
ginger,
saying that.
and
was
I
it.
love
Oh,
me
heck
some
no.
Knaffle.
If there was anybody I'd believe Picard with.
I love me some Tara, so don't even.
No. There was a
You
period
don't think
of
Tara
time.
could keep me in line?
No, what? No, I'm talking about Picard, dude.
I know. If I'm Picard, you don't think Knaffle could keep me in line? Please.
Because even though I
Yes.
know what sort of happens between Picard and Beverly,
They
I'm
struck.
still not too sure about how I feel about it. Because I suppose it's always something that I probably expected that would probably happen during TNG anyway. Because the amount of times they got sort of close to sort of maybe rekindling sort of a relationship during the series. So I suppose there's part of me that sort of always expected it to happen. But sort of, for me, I don't know, sort of Picard always just seems stronger when he's alone.
Is Mike still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Mike, I want your opinion on something. Terry, you can't answer.
All right.
Has Terry not complained that they never let Picard have a love life before, and now she's complaining that he's got a love life, but it's not with who she would have picked? Does Terry not sound like a Klingon Jewish mother right now?
Well,
that's not who I would have picked for my captain.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
But go ahead, Mike.
Well, watching the series, I saw it coming. You know, it was one of those things where it was like part of me was saying, "Hurry up and get it over with already." You know, 7 years of flirting is a little bit much, but reading little bits and pieces of it that I have, I don't know if I like it.
I had a different feeling about it, and that was, I'll tell you what, I really liked the way that Beverly was portrayed when she was falling in love with somebody else. I loved the sexual being that she was when she was like with Odan, right? God, what a
she was like a rotten kitten.
Oh my God, what a gorgeous
or her
outward
grandmother's
free human being she was.
Mother
In
boyfriend.
that. Oh, I loved her.
No,
in
do
that.
not bring up that episode.
What, in Sub Rosa?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was all free in that one too. I'm just saying. And I see her as being much more of a sexual powerhouse and than Picard.
Oh, she'd break
geared for.
Yeah, she'd break him.
Yeah,
she would totally break him. And that's why I'm saying is that I wanted her to be in love with someone other than her fucking boss. And it was such an 80s thing to do, to have the woman fall in love with her supervisor. And it was like another goddamn trope. I mean, Troy, I was going to forgive. And the only reason why I was forgiving Troy was because they had that relationship from the very moment you meet her. In the very first episode of TNG, her first line to Riker is a romantic.
Isn't it Hayam Zadi or something?
It is. Do you remember what I taught you? I mean, it.
Yeah, which they actually took from Ilea and Decker and the
right.
motion picture.
They made that a previous history of a romantic relationship from day one.
But
so I had no choice to admit
Beverly?
it. The only relationship I got from Picard and Crusher was he killed her husband.
No, I always got that they had an attraction to each other, but
That's what I got.
There was nothing that could be done because she was married to Jack.
And that was resolved in season 7 when they had the whole connectivity thing and they realized, no, they were better off as friends. I bought that hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, no.
You don't think that people that think that they can just be friends could then, like 30 years later, fall in love?
I think they did the move in the books to Qualm. I think they did it to bring in female. Oh God damn! I hate to say it. To bring in female readers.
Oh, we got to get Marco or somebody on to discuss this.
I never saw Picard as ever. Really, I saw him married to the ship, and I liked him when he was married to the ship.
I'm sorry, I just noticed something. I'm looking at the studio, the layout of the studio for the fire exits and everything. We have a studio called the Shaven Wookiees. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just saw that. It's been I haven't looked in so long at our emergency exit situation.
Yeah, you have to go through the holosuite maze to get to the emergency exit, and the
See, I
Shaven
just come in the
Wookiees
back
is one of
door.
the studios that you have to pass. Yes.
I come in the back, don't you? Mike holds open the fire exit for me.
No wonder the damn
I
alarm
come in
goes
through
off
the
every
front
s-
door.
I'm just saying,
You are the front door.
the
Sorry, that
Time
was
to
a.
Be Born definitely lays the foundation for all of it, and it's a worthy read, if
I
only
just,
to get you into the rest of the series.
I just channeled the Princess Bride. You
You
are the
did.
front
It was
door.
awesome. Oh,
No,
Now,
it's a good book. It's a good book, and it lays. No way did I see where the series was going to go after this first book. There's no way that I saw what was going to happen later on.
no.
But the effects of this intergalactic junkyard and all that. Is it Wolf 359? Is that what it is?
No,
No.
What the hell?
it's a Dominion War battle zone.
Rashana,
Ah.
the Battle of Rashana. It's the graveyard that they're at.
Yeah, see,
And-
'cause like I said, it's been almost 10 years since I've read it. But I remember there was something with radiation and all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a bit of a strange thing. Sort of all these different ships, because there are no survivors, which was sort of really pushed that just like no one survived from either side. But one thing that also got me with a lot of the information about this sort of graveyard, not only are there sort of these strange sort of gravity sinks, you've also got antimatter asteroids, you've got the scavengers, but the strange thing that I found was the amount of different ships from different species that you'd got. Because basically all I could think was, okay, the Federation, you would just have Federation ships from Starfleet, you'd have Romulan and Klingon. But then you'd have Dominion ships and Cardassian ships for the other side. But there seemed to be an awful lot of other ships as well, which was like, why would they be there?
Well, I think it's kind of going off on the fact that they are going to have allied.
Yeah, the Starfleet, they would have allies in the region that would come and send their local militias to come help.
Right. I mean, if you're throwing every ship that you've got, it would be like us calling on the National Guard. Technically, they're set for each state, but if we needed them, we pull them from the states and make them do federal work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose
kinda
it's
how
just
it is.
because we never saw that in the TV series at all.
Right.
I just thought, in a way, it was strange. Sort of, as you've said, I could understand the reasons why, and that's what I assumed would probably have happened. Because one of the species, it begins with O.
Oh, the Onkelian or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. They've got their ships as well, although none of the wreckage seems to be from any of their ships, from what's described.
Right.
So
If I'm not mistaken, they were basically hired on to do the cleanup. They got the contract to do the
They
cleanup.
got the contract to clean up, right? The
it's, well,
Ontalians.
when Picard's being assessed and everything else, they've actually said they're planning on pulling out of the Federation, and that would be bad because then they'd lose access to the site because it's on their doorstep. So I actually took it that it was actually in their sector that
That's
this
what it
battle
is.
took place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just sort of strange, sort of all these different alien ships, and sort of one of the questions I was sort of leading to is all the ships that there were from all these species. Does that relate to anything else going on in the series of these books? Or is it just the location which sort of started a lot of these sort of things off?
Repeat the question so I don't answer it wrong.
Well, I'm just wondering if, with all these different species that on all their ships that we sort of read about.
No, the series moves on to other planets and stuff later on.
All right, so it is literally, it's just book one is concentrated on this area.
Yes.
And this is
Well-
basically just a complete lead on to then what happens with Picard and things like
Well,
that.
I would say that you're going to see them in the next book in A Time to Die, because they're
Yeah.
kind of they're kind of this pair, and the way that the series is set in these pairs. So you pick up with what happens with Wesley, and then it's almost as if every 2 books is a 2-part episode.
Okay.
And so you're going to get a cliffhanger at the end of book 1, and then it picks up and kind of resolves ish in book 2, and then book 3 is kind of a new set. Wouldn't you agree, Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how it kind of pairs out. So
And does
Well-
each set continue directly on from the previous set, or is it like a lot of these other series where there's a big gap or something
it
else?
depends. There's some that have a time period, but they, for the most part, kind of move on. They have what is, for all intent and purposes, 4 years to cover with 9 books, if that gives you
Okay.
any clue.
Okay.
So but it's fun stuff. We need to wrap things up. Nick, did you buy any books?
I downloaded some free ones.
What'd you get?
I got The Picture of Dorian Gray.
Oh.
Yeah, I figure why not?
Are you watching Penny Dreadful?
No, I forgot it was on.
Oh, okay. What about you, Mike? Did you get any books while we were talking and shopping?
I did pick up a few, but they were through Kobo,
Okay.
and they were just various science fiction. I'm logging in. I had closed out, so I'm getting back into it. So just a second.
And what about you, Steve?
I downloaded a couple of free ones. I got War of the Worlds from H.G. Wells and The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling.
Oh,
Rudyard
nice.
Kipling, nice, good
so
one.
I thought, well, War of the Worlds, I always liked the movies, so I thought I'd actually read the book when I eventually get time. I thought I'd download The Jungle Book because it's always been a very good story, and I thought if I'm ever just sort of stuck with nothing to do and Charlie's with me, then it's a book that's suitable for a 6-year-old, and we can read together. Yeah, when we're talking about authors and that, I then sort of went on and downloaded the complete series of Metas.
Of what?
Metas. So Trance, Changeling, Tempest, and
Kelly
Chimera
Metting!
from Kelly Metting.
Yay!
Yay,
So,
that's fantastic. I thought he
so-
said meta, and I was like, really? A meta war?
So yeah,
I'll let her know
that
because
series.
I will be going and staying with Kelly Friday night, helping her
Oh,
sister
awesome.
move. Yeah, her sister's moving, so I'm helping her sister move. I love the Metting girls.
That's awesome.
I ended up picking up Sky Hunter, Targon Tales by Chris Reher, Passing the Night by Michael Kingswood, and The Settlers, book 1 of the Movement trilogy by Jason Gurley.
Wow, very cool.
Do you remember the John Jakes series, The Settlers, The Seekers, all of those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My grandmother got me those when I was like in the 8th grade.
Wow.
They were like 1,000 pages each. I never read them.
Well, again, you guys, thanks so much for joining us for this month's Book of the Month Club. We went over kind of briefly and in a very casual way the first book in the Time to Be Born series. It was a little difficult for us to talk about the book specifically because, you know what? When you're dealing with a 9-book series, you don't want to start off with a bunch of spoilers.
Yeah.
You want people to kind of get into it. So,
well, not just that, the book itself doesn't cover that much. It sets lots of things up, but it doesn't
really
tend to cover a lot.
It really does. And if you ever really wanted to know what happened to Wesley Crusher, do yourself a favor and pick up at least the first 2 books, A Time to Be Born and A Time to Die, both by John Vornholt. And you can get them on your favorite digital publisher right now.
And if you like the kind of just sitting back, drinking coffee, browsing, kind of going off and then coming back to the book, let us know.
They're an easy read. I would say that's why I got through them, is although I didn't sit down and I gobbled through them, because I could have gobbled through it in a day, but I went through chapter by chapter. It took me a couple of weeks because I would read a chapter a day, and but it was fun. It was fun.
Chapter a
reading
day keeps the Allen away.
I have to before we go, I have to admit the Reading Rainbow Kickstarter, it's just hypnotizing. I mean, I'm sitting here and the numbers are just ticking up.
Isn't it awesome?
Is it still?
Yeah, they're over 1.25 million. It's like, wow. Every few seconds, the numbers get bigger. It's like hypnotizing. It's awesome.
Well, congratulations to LeVar Burton and the entire team at Reading Rainbow, because that's a phenomenal thing. And to be honest with you, on the day that Maya Angelou passed away, it's a fitting thing to donate to be able to get kids interested in reading and writing and poetry and expression of and expressing themselves through words and not violence. All right, you guys, have a great one. This was the May version of the G&T Book Club featuring Midnight. Say goodbye.
Goodbye. But
Ceridium.
just before we sign off,
Oh, yes, please.
the next book club is we're covering the Typhon Pact Zero Sum game, and we'll be recording on Wednesday, 18th of June, and that'll be at 6 o'clock Pacific, or specifically Pacific.
Specifically Pacific.
So if you'd like to join us, please send us an email to hosts@gntshow.com and let us know. We're always open to have people join us.
Right. Typhon Pact Book 1. Nick?
What?
Hold on. Sorry. Say goodbye.
Kapla!
And I'm saying goodbye. Nick, you always get the last word.
Fucking droll on true, fuckers.
Music for the G&T show is provided by Warp 11, Grethor, 5 Year Mission, and Andrew Allen's Smooth Federation.